Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Brendan Miller, and I am counsel for Freedom Corp, which is the corporation and entity that represents the protesters that were in Ottawa in January and February of 2022. So first, again, you've said you were at all of the IRG meetings, correct? And that you were at all of the, or at the cabinet meeting on the 13th.
Yes.
All right. And I understand in your position as essentially assistant deputy minister and as a bureaucrat within government, there is times that you have to interpret legislation. Is that fair?
That is something that public servants would do in consultation with, usually you have advice from lawyers
Right.
on the interpretation, but yes.
But, and you again, you do it yourself at times, right? You, within your ministry, because you agree that there's legislation that sets out what you can do and what you can't do. Is that fair?
Well, the first part of your question, no, I don't interpret legislation on my own. And I believe the second part of your question is correct. Parliament passes legislation that sets out what their vision and intent for legislation is. And in some cases, it says what you can and you can't do.
Okay. And can you agree in this circumstance, you're aware that the Emergencies Act requires for its invocation for there to be a finding that there to be a threat to the security of Canada?
I'm aware of that, yes.
Okay. And can you agree with me that a threat to the security of Canada in the Emergencies Act, from your understanding, has the same meaning as it does in Section 2 of the CSIS Act?
I'm going to decline to answer this question. I'm sorry. I don't feel that in my current responsibilities and my knowledge and understanding that I can answer that question for you.
Okay. Can I please bring up document COM 00000739, please? It's just one of the commission documents, actually. Okay, can we scroll down, please? Scroll down. Scroll down. And scroll down. There we go. Thank you. Okay, this is one of the commission documents, and I just want to know if this is your understanding and was your understanding at the time, okay? This is something that the commissioners wrote. And it says, threats to the security of Canada has the same meaning assigned by Section 2 of the Canadian Security Intelligence Act. Do you have any reason to disagree with that?
Again, I don't feel expert enough to be able to answer that question.
Were you ever advised that that was the case prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act?
Sorry, objection, Mr. Commissioner. That question invites a question of legal advice. So obviously she cannot answer if it concerns legal advice.
I'm not saying whether by a lawyer. What about CSIS, the RCMP, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or Canadian Security Intelligence Establishment, all of the other civil servants outside of the DOJ? Did they ever advise you of that?
Me personally?
You
No.
in a group of people?
There would have been discussions about this, but I think those questions, about were put to the National Security and Intelligence Advisor yesterday, and I would defer to whatever answers she provided to the Commission yesterday on these questions.
Okay.
I don't feel in a position that I can answer those questions very specifically.
Right. And
Based on the role and the responsibilities that I had in supporting the Privy Council Office and at the time of the events that transpired.
so can I ask this question? Outside of the National Security Intelligence Advisor yesterday, where You heard her advising that there was going to be legal argument that this means something different than it says, and then there was going to be, no one seems to be able to answer this. You understand, though, that to invoke an emergency under the Emergencies Act, that you can only do so if certain legal requisites under that act are met. Is that fair?
I think I'm going to decline to answer this question. Thank you.
Okay. And can you agree that many ministers have stated in public that law enforcement advised them that the threshold to invoke the act was met? Have you heard them say that?
I don't know that I can answer that either.
Okay. We have not heard, we've heard all of law enforcement so far testify. And it doesn't appear that anyone in law enforcement advised them that the threshold to invoke the CSIS Act was met. Do you agree with that?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to answer that question either.
Okay. And just for my last point, Coots, right? The arrests that were made at Coots, those were done solely by the local, contracted by the province, Alberta RCMP. They weren't done at a national level. Is that fair?
That's my understanding, that it was the RCMP.
Right. And those arrests at Coots and the operations that they were carrying out in arresting those individuals for conspiracy to commit murder and et cetera, you didn't know about that, and Cabinet didn't know about that until after the act was invoked. Isn't that true?
I can't speak to what others would have known, and what who would have known what before the operation was executed. I myself, in the conversations that I was witness to, was aware that there were threats of violence to persons and a worry about the safety of officers, and that was all we knew. And I have to say, in the conversations that I was party to, the commissioner of the RCMP was very careful about operational security.
So it's fair to say that the things that you were party to, you didn't know about the undercover operation in Coots or the individuals there, what they were up to? No,
I was aware that there was a threat of violence, that there was thought to be firearms involved.
Right.
And there were threats to the safety of the officers there. Right. And they were proceeding cautiously, and that's the extent of what I would have known about that situation.
But no one advised you that it was such a threat as to be serious violence or terrorism or violent extremism that would meet the threshold in the CSIS Act. Is that fair?
So I think I've already clarified what I knew. I can't speak to what others knew about the situation. So I think I need to leave it there. Just.
Thank you. Those are my questions. And sir, I think I have quite a bit of time left. I would like to cede that time to the province of Alberta.